Welcome to the One on One podcast with your host, Juan Ayala.
Welcome back to, I would say, the first episode of the year, but unfortunately it's not, Slick, because I actually did record an episode with Homie Romy last night for the Patreon, where we got into some Pseudomonarchia Daemonum by Johann Weyer, and we went hard in the paint on this, and we also talked a little bit about the Kabbalistic trees. Well, it came up in conversation, but the next one we're going to be talking about that. But I had predicted that I wasn't going to be able to sleep after doing Johann Weyer's prayer that you're supposed to do before invoking demons, because I did read it on air, half of it, because it was a lot. And I couldn't sleep last night. So if you want to check that out, that is on the Patreon. It's a dopamine deep dive number 18 with Homie Romy, where we talk about demons and invoking demons. We talked about Cornelius Agrippa. We talked about Prometheus. We talked about all those dudes, and it was a great time. But that was the first episode of 2025. But here we are. On
so
the public feed.
Are you telling me that we're number 19? He was 18 and we're 19?
Yeah. Sure. No. Well, This is gonna go out to the public feed. So this is gonna be on the one-on-one.
Oh, all right. Okay. Well, yeah, 18 is a very magical number. Jumping between 18 and 19 is the monotonic lunar standstill code. And that's actually really heavy with my weaves.
This will be 240, so 24.
Oh, snap. That works too.
Hey,
that
yeah.
Right? I got something for everything, buddy. I got something for everything.
So, dude, welcome to the show, Slick. Once again, we always go everywhere and anywhere, and you know how it is with the old Slick dissident. What you been up to, bro? How's your New Year's? Hopefully everyone did have a happy holidays, happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Saturnalia, freaking Bacchanalia, whatever, Sol Invictus, whatever you celebrate, more power to you. But how was yours, dude?
It was wonderful. Yeah, some real quality time with my my kiddo and all the matriarchs in my family. Well, we have a huge collection of birthdays near and around Capricorn and Sagittarius, and almost all of them are the ladies in the family. So I've been dishing out Christmas and birthday massages for the past couple of weeks, and yeah, just gave a beautiful gift to pretty much everybody. I kind of went into dishing out books. You know, I'm kind of getting into let's use the old technology. Let's not get too caught up in the new technology, and let's just have the actual book in our hand, you know? So yeah. I dished out a ton of books for Christmas, and got my kiddo the Neil Gaiman comic book series on magic. I think she's going to be tripping on that. And a lot of the imagery you and I pull up here on the channel that comes off of the Neil Gaiman magic series that he put out.
Interesting. And where can people find you, bro? Where can people go to your website or your podcast? YouTube channel?
Yep, I got the YouTube Slick Dissident on YouTube is my channel, and then you can find me at slickdissident.com is my website, where I sport some of these shirts and some of my tarot cards with some of my original thought logismoi on offer for the people. And also I get down with Chance Garton over on the Interverse quite regularly, but I think we're all on a winter hiatus for a little while.
Yeah, I had to take a break too, dude. You got burned out quick, and I think I took half of November and all of December off, kind of, sort of, a little bit. I think I only podcasted a few times, so this is going to be the first official episode of 2025 that we're going into now, and we're going to be just banging these out. I got a fully booked week next week, so we're going to go hard in the paint. And yeah, make sure to check out the show, social media at the One-on-One Podcast, pretty much all social media platforms, www.tjojp.com, Patreon for all those that are interested, patreon.com/the One-on-One Podcast, and all that good stuff. Links down in the description. But this guy, dude, I'd never heard about them. So DC Comics, Neil Gaiman, The Books of Magic. Apparently, it is a comic book miniseries, and the art looks pretty dope, dude.
Yes, it's quite exceptional. And I really love keeping an eye on these guys because they really are the grand culture creators. You know, that term vanguard, we talked about it on the last time I was on with you. You know, the word vanguard is kind of what we call today the avant-garde.
Mm-hmm.
And the avant-garde are pretty much where I think the military industrial complex in Hollywood meet. And so yeah, a lot of the symbolic literacy is very dependent on keeping abreast of what these guys are putting out.
So check this out, dude. So we have DC, which is important because it's got one of my favorite movie series, whatever, I guess you want, Watchmen, by the old Alan Moore, right? Who is an occultist, right? He's on par with what's the other guy that did the hyper sigils? What's his name? Hyper sigils. Who did the Invisibles? I think it is.
Yes, I know who you're talking about, but I forget.
Grant Morrison.
That's right? It. Yep.
So you have Grant Morrison, who is also I believe he's a chaos magician. And this is a guy who's written about, he did a very popular series called, I think it's the Invisibles. And I haven't ever checked it out, but apparently, allegedly, he says that this is a hyper sigil of his, and that whatever he did in the comic book to his character that was modeled after him, also whatever happened to the character in the story also happened to him in reality. And so we have, again, this idea of some sort of mimetic magic occultism in there. And Grant Morrison is also up there, or I'm sorry, Alan Moore is also up there. But check this out, dude. As Moore's proposed story would have left many of the characters unusable for future stories, managing editor Dick Giordano convinced Moore to create original characters instead. Giordano, okay, he was. So he's go ahead and passed on, but I wonder if he's part of the bloodline of Giordano Bruno in some sort of way. But I'm gonna check these out, dude. This actually looks pretty dope.
Yeah, it was. I don't think I got all the way through it, but I think I got to book number 2, and it is really good stuff.
Dr. Occult.
Yeah, kind of he echoes Rorschach in interesting ways, you know.
Constantine number 17. All right, yeah, I'm gonna have to check this out. Again, being a abilities expert, user of magic, spellcasting, summoning, scrying, power siphoning, conjuration, magical amplification, magical chant, eldritch blast, energy transference, force field generation. This dude's going in. I wonder if we can make a homunculus. Necromancy.
Dude, the homunculus meteor shower is coming up.
So last time you and I got together,
yeah, buddy,
we dropped some bombs there at the end. Right now, we've got some craziness going on. 2025, we have the exploding Cybertruck. We have the Illuminati fog. Everyone's freaking out about it. At first, it was the drones, and everyone always forgets about everything, moves on to the next power siphon, attention siphoning thing. It's like, well, I forgot what was it before the drones? What did we have before the drones? Do you remember?
We had Putin coming on the air, threatening a high explosive retaliation. Things kind of went crazy on the international scene, and then it came local with the drones. You know, it's kind of on a macro, large scale threat, and then it became like, no, it's already in your backyard.
Yeah, it's in your nipples, and then it's like, oh, here's this fog that everyone was talking about. They'd never seen fog in their life before.
Right.
But at the end of our last episode, if I recall correctly, we talked about I think it was the Homunculus Nebula. Was that it? Homunculus Nebula.
You got it. With the baby homunculus inside of it.
So it's actually a homunculus within a homunculus. Now, is there a dark mode for freaking Wikipedia?
a good question.
Can we go dark MAGA on Wikipedia? Because this thing is like, oh, here we go. Dark. Yeah, baby. All right, cool. Yeah, this looks a lot better. All right, so the Homunculus Nebula is a bipolar emission and reflection nebula surrounding the massive star system Edna Carinae. Is that supposed to be like the dog, something dog related?
That one is actually the keel of a broken up boat called the Argos.
All right, let's start peeling this apart because
Yeah.
what was it that I found out? It was it was like in the same time frame as the day that Trump was elected the first time around. What was it, dude? You want to go back and watch the episode that you and I did? Watch the ending there because it was like towards the ending.
It was right at the end, and it was too much to handle for the end of the show. We were closing up.
It was.
There's some sort of an effect inside of the baby homunculus.
Here we go. I got it, dude. Let me pull this up because
there we go.
We were dropping bombs, dude. Chrome tab, share sound. All right, here we go. Is this it? All right, can you hear this?
Yep.
All right, cool. So let's go to the end here because it was towards the ending, and we'll pick up right where we left off. Right?
All right, perfect.
It'll be great. So here we go. All right, so yeah, here it is.
For cell code, it's telling you that you were more of a ninja than you ever could have imagined.
You will submit, and you will like it, and it's the NWO. Here's the last one, bro. So we got the Homunculus and Edda Carinae are assumed to be at approximately the same distance as Trumpler 16.
Tower card, y'all.
What year did Trump win the first presidential election?
Ain't that some smack? Ain't that some smack? These high priests, man, they got their head in the stars. We're lucky to have a damn clue.
Trumpler. Oh, man. I can't make this up. But anyways.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween. That was on everyone. That was on Halloween, too, on top of that, dude. We recorded that on Halloween. That came out on November 18th. So Trumpler 16.
Yeah. Yep.
So what do you got for us? You're saying that the homunculus shower is coming up, dude? What?
Yeah, the Edda Carinae meteor shower happens on Inauguration Day. It has a broad window, but the peak of its expression is right on January 21st.
Shower 2025. Let's look this up.
Yeah. And the sigil for this constellation has three. It's a kind of the mast of a boat or the keel of a boat, and three lines dropping down out of the keel, which I've also correlated to the umbilical cord. You know, the umbilical cord has three veins, vessels, and then there's a mucosum, kind of like your what is it called? The green. Oh, it's your waste removal. That's what it is. It's your waste removal.
So what do you think is going to happen? So are they using it to fuel some sort of, I mean, obviously the inauguration is one of the biggest initiations that there is, right?
You're exactly right. And it's also drumming into our most animal-like nature because it's in the depth of the winter. It is really droning into our hibernation habits and our seasonal immune response. The winter is the quintessence of white fragility because the ice and the snow and the Frosty, the snowman, all of the constellations down there are white fragility. There's a goose, there's a swan, there's the Pegasus, and then there's, I often incorporate this river because I see the river as frozen. It's a frozen river that you would slip and fall on it. So there's even aspects in the heavens in the wintertime that are telling you, tread carefully, be extremely fragile, because this is the time of year when things are really dangerous and you're going to have to hunt for your food. It doesn't just come out of the ground in abundance right now. You got to go and hunt and risk your life to even eat at night. So yeah, a lot of the signs and symbols in the winter are very primal.
So here you said it was the keel of a boat?
Yes, the Edda Carinae. there are many other coterminal constellations near and around it. Here you go. This is great. Yep.
I'm trying to find a picture of it. Because is that like what is it? The Argonauts with the boat. You remember that when we did that episode on that a long time ago?
Absolutely, buddy. Yep. So Jason, the word Jason, is the Notoricon sequencing of January, August, September, October, November. That spells Jason. And the Argos boat that he rides on, it starts in January, or in July, along with the J of his name. So the phrase Jason and the Argonauts is actually painting a zodiac with our words.
The constellation Carina is part of the former constellation Argo Navis, which represented the ship of Jason. It is part of that.
Totally, yes.
Oh, shoot.
And you've heard the conundrum of the ship of Theseus.
Yes.
So if you take this boat and you spread it apart and replace it with all new pieces, it still is going to be called the ship of Theseus because in theory it's the same, even though you replaced all the pieces. Well, that's exactly the metaphor for what I do with mythology.
Oh, here it is right here.
Yes. And so what I do with mythology is you can interchange all the pieces of the telemetry data of a complete hermetic system. But it just looks slightly different, but it's still kind of anatomically perfect for the psychology of mankind. And so, yeah, this boat used to be the biggest constellation ever until like somewhere in the 1830s, somewhere between the two world wars, or maybe right before the First World War, they decided to break up. Big ups to PK on this research rabbit trail, by the way. They decided to break up the Argo Navis because it was actually like immensely the largest constellation ever. And they spread it around in the southern hemisphere. And then they re-standardized all the constellations around the time that they broke the ship up. But some of the things that they did to trim the ship down to size actually turned it into a submarine. And this was the time that the submarines were changing the tide of the war, was at the time that they actually reconfigured the Argo Navis at large. And so after that...
And is that zebra homage to PKD, by the
way? I had no idea that he was into the zebra.
Yeah, dude.
I found the zebra on my own path, and then I find out he was into it too.
The pink light, dude. That book goes so hard. Valis is such a crazy documentary. Like that's not even a book, dude. Like that book changed my life. Like Philip K. Dick's writing opens up your mind so wildly that you're not ready for that. You know how they talk about like Kundalini and how people go crazy after they awaken their, like that was me reading Philip K. Dick. He was like boom, 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 and this, and I was like, and that's one of the 3 books, right? So
yeah, man. Yeah.
It goes so crazy, dude.
I couldn't believe it because I kind of came to the zebra thing on my own path, and I find out that homie's talking about it on a whole nother level. It's a trip and a half.
So life imitates art, my bad. So life imitates art. They switch it over and they turn it into a submarine, and that whole riddle or myth or whatever you want to call it, an analogy of if you replace all the planks of wood in this boat or whatever it is it still the same boat? And on the topic of politicians and people in power, who I believe at some point in time are all amalgamations of the previous person, right? They're creating these new homunculus over and over again. But if you take something and you turn it into a chimera, is it still the original thing, or does it become something completely different in the end? Does it continue to evolve, or how does that work? Because we can take that into the homunculus argument of like, if the original alchemist, right, used his seed to create that homunculus, then the next alchemist takes that homunculus and does something with it to create another homunculus or whatever it is. Does it still like retain some of that magical essence of the first? I think so, because I learned yesterday on the episode with Homie Romy that there is 4,000-year-old sourdough, dude. And like 1,000-year-old, 100-year-old sourdough starter kits.
Whoa.
Did you ever hear about this?
No.
Bro.
Wow, that's profound. It's like eating history.
You can buy, allegedly, a 5,000-year-old Red Sea Egyptian sourdough starter. And sourdough, if anything, is a real-life homunculus. Like sourdough, wow. I haven't made any because it's like a lot of work. But sourdough is alive, dude.
Wow.
Sourdough moves. It's a you have to feed it. And if you think, if let's say that let's think about, right, if the homunculus was fake and gay, right, which more than likely it was, right? Let's say that it never existed. And these guys, yesterday we talked about how maybe the Goetia and the Lesser Key of Solomon, which was modeled after the Pseudomonarchia, right? But here's the thing with the Pseudomonarchia, dude, that our boy Weyer here, Johann Weyer, who was a live-in student at 14 years old, live-in student with Cornelius Agrippa. Okay. Make of that what you will. Okay. Kind of weird, but whatever. Live-in student, a pupil of Agrippa. He put this out trolling. And there's 69 demons in this particular grimoire. Okay. 69 instead of the 72. And from this work is where the Lesser Key and everything else came forth from. So again, we go back to that question of the ship. If the original was fake and gay to begin with, Slick, does it make everything else after that also fake and gay? How does that work? Please explain that to me. You know what I'm saying? So you have here, you can buy a 5,000-year-old. So where's the original was 5,000 years ago, allegedly. You got these works. I called him the first. I want to say Johann Weyer was the first mimetic magician troll. He was trolling. Yeah, man.
Yeah. The one thing that comes to mind is how much the word sourdough just kind of rhymes with your shadow. And there's we look into shadow work, and you kind of got to consider that some of it is way beyond just one lifetime. That's a lot to be carrying around in your backpack.
Just taking a look here at sourdough, see if it rings with anything here. You see any numbers that stand out to you, bro? I got the 411 here.
Yeah. I see a 369 in there with Fibonacci, 396. Ooh. That's going to happen. That's totally going to happen. 43 is close to, I've been buzzing on 42, the answers to the universe and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 42 has been on my weave recently. Symposium equals 42, and Enneagram equals 42, both with 9 letters. But yeah.
Interesting. So yeah, I didn't know. Again, look, 4,500-year-old, 900-year-old,
wow,
1,000-year-old. Are they really? Who knows? I mean, but I learned this yesterday because I was talking to Romy, and he's been cooking up pizzas, and I was like, hey, dude, how similar is it cooking pizzas to? You're an alchemist, dude. You're working in front of the furnace, cooking up the bread. And if anything was to be described with the homunculus, let's say it wasn't what we've been told, that it's a little man in a jar, it's sourdough.
Yeah, man.
And think about it, because bread is such a pivotal thing in any major religion.
Yeah.
The Eucharist, you do what? You eat bread and wine, right, which is symbolic. So bread has a very powerful, religious meaning, significance throughout all of history. And I'm sure bread was even made during Mesopotamian times, where I'm sure you could probably buy a bread. Mesopotamian bread. Is there sourdough?
Yeah. And even, symbolically, a lot of aspects of Virgo are intrinsic to the harvest season and the bread, but also like breeding practices, and keeping eugenic pure bloodlines. All of these are kind of very much how Big Pharma is still conducting the big farm of.
Look at what they call the first component, the mother.
Is it a mother feeder?
Yeah. Well, yeah. All right. Mother feeder. So you got the mother.
Right.
So, dude, this is alchemy. I'm gonna make a sourdough.
It's interesting if you think about the mothership, the Ayn Randian mothership.
3 to 4 hours to come to life. 5 to 6 days to develop a personality. What?
Whoa.
Dude, the secret is in the sourdough, Slick.
Can we turn? Let me see if I could turn that sourdough into the word golem.
Well, so here, let's look up what are the numbers saying here. Oh, dude, we're going down the sourdough, the sourdough rabbit hole. So golem is
okay.
It's 22, 66. All right. Well, they're not complete. They're not matches 100%, but the golem again. And if you, didn't Jews make donuts or bagels, right?
Bagels.
They made bagels. Can you have sourdough bagels?
Oh man, I hope so.
The history of the bagel and the anti-Semitism.
Oh, no.
Bagels and sourdough are both associated with so sourdough is associated with Jewish culture, but bagels are more commonly associated with Jewish history and culture, while sourdough is not. Okay.
Huh.
So sourdough. Who created the sourdough? Who created sourdough? The Egyptians, of course. Right. Sourdough around 1500 BC. The most popular theory is that it was discovered by accident when bread dough was left out, and wild yeast spores in the air caused it to rise. The Egyptians realized that this method created a light bread with better taste. They were like, this has been infused with the soul of a god right now. So we have to treat this with respect. And that's how the first... Well, and that would make sense, dude, because the first alchemists, allegedly, the land of Chem. The Egyptians, Hermes Trismegistus.
Yeah, buddy. Yep.
The Gnostics, dude.
Yep. And even, in the translation back to the word for chaos, a lot of people think that it justifies, a nothing or something coming out of a nothing. They think that the primordial chaos means the nihilo. But I always want to point out that it's also linguistically rooted in the word gas and also the word cause. The word cause, gas, and chaos are somewhat interchangeably. And what I'm doing here, very much like the ship of Theseus, I'm taking these phonetics and I'm re-amalgamizing them around these projections into, creation mythology. The gas, the cause, and the chaos theory is all phonetically harmonic. And it's just kind of making a claim. It's stating, a verbal mouth sound claim on where everything comes from. And I just find it fun to do a ship of Theseus with these words because they all kind of come from the same mother feeder. You know what I mean?
Mother feeder.
That all comes from the same symbolic
Say
mother feeder.
What? One more time. I double dare you, mother feeder. So check this out. The alchemy of sourdough bread. This is the AI overview. I love it. Some say sourdough bread making is magical and that the process is similar to alchemy. The starter, also known as the mother, is a living organism that's fed flour and water to create a cycle of growth, multiplication, and death. The long fermentation process breaks down wheats, gluten, and carbohydrates, making sourdough easier to digest than other types of bread. Dude, sourdough is the elixir of life. It is, right? Because you need carbs to survive. And this is the crazy part. I don't know if you've ever seen that show Alone on Netflix. Have you ever seen that show?
No, I don't think so.
So there's this show called Alone. I think it's Netflix. And what they do is these people go out and I think they win $1 million or $500,000, but you go out and it's whoever survives the longest. There is no end. Like, it's until last man standing. And one of the interesting parts, one of the seasons I saw, there was this dude who was crazy with the bow, and he shot I believe it was an elk or a caribou, one of the two. He shot it, and he's like, "You're gonna win, right? You shot this huge animal. You're gonna have meat." He's trying to like hide the meat from the bears and all this crazy stuff because they're deep in the woods, and he's like, I need a source of fat or something because the meat itself, the protein, isn't going to sustain you. So even though he killed this huge animal, he has all this meat, you'd think like, oh, he's going to win. Like, this is it. Like, this dude got food. Like, that's the main thing that people struggle with.
Right.
It wasn't enough, right? And just to bring that into like the whole bread, like you need carbohydrates. You need a balanced diet, obviously, to make it. Now, you'd probably last a little bit longer than another guy who was, I think it was this guy. It was an elk, dude. This guy killed it with, he had it's like a regular, not even a compound bow, just like a regular, drawstring bow. And he season 6, episode 5, The Kill. And he took down this giant elk, dude. But I think, spoiler alert, I think he did win this season because it does give you an advantage, right? But it wasn't enough. He's like, I need fat. And I think one of the nights, some honey badgers, I think, broke into his camp and stole his can of fat that he had, that he was storing up and like eating out of to like supplement some stuff. But yeah, dude, this show is crazy. You should check it out. And isn't this an elk on the cover of Leave the World Behind? That is, right?
Yeah, it is. That's fascinating. I've been looking at the constellation of Centaurus. And just when I look at the image of the constellation, it looks so much like a giant buck with a glorious rack on it. It's supposed to be a bull with a human torso, a bull man with a human torso. But
what? Oh yeah,
Centaurus.
Oh, a centaur's dick. Is it in the front up here, or is it back here like a horse?
I think it's in the back. That's a good question, though.
Where does a centaur's dick go, dude? Like, would it be too distracting? Would he have to wear like a skirt in the front to cover his dick? If he right? Have you ever come across a centaur? It's like, oh, that's where the dick goes.
Maybe that's what the spear represents.
Hey, dude. Maybe that is right. The spear and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the body of a horse, right?
Right. Yep. In some depictions, it's like in the story of the maze of the island of Crete. Yeah, I think it's the island of Crete. There's a maze with the centaur. In that story, he actually has a bullhead with a.
He's a minotaur then.
Yeah, minotaur. Yep.
Yeah, that's the story of flying too close to the sun. What's his name?
Daedalus.
Daedalus or Daedalus. I say Daedalus, however you want to say Daedalus, Nice. Where he was the first like trinker, right? He was like the first guy to ever make like robots and stuff like that. And I think he's in a book that I got. It's a really crazy book. So George R. Heresy, actually, how you say his name, Hersey. He wrote a lot about like statues and animating and all that stuff. But I'm going to get that book so I can read some stuff from there because it's really interesting.
Yeah, because that's some primordial, what do they call, uncanny valley. They used to stun people psychologically by animating a mannequin and convincing people it could talk or play chess. They get people's mind just broke out of reality, showing them some of the technique. And, Socrates' father kind of had a name that was related to the word Daedalus. Because he was a craftsman, he was actually a sculptor, a famous sculptor. But yeah, he's from the bloodline that has the root in Daedalus.
So this book, you're not going to find it online because that's how hard in the paint it goes. I've taken some notes already from it because he does talk about homunculus and everything in here, but it's called Artificial Humans from Pygmalion to the Present.
Oh, man.
Falling in love with statues. All right. And Hersey, George L. Hersey, which wrote Pythagorean Palaces, by the way. This is the guy. This is the Pythagorean Palace guy.
Wow.
And when I found him, I fell in love with his work. I bought all his books, by the way, because a lot of them aren't available online. I had to buy all his books, and I don't know what to say about it because it's so in depth with everything. He goes hard in the paint on architecture, like resonance and proportions and everything. But I came across this particular book where he talks about, again, artificial humans, from Greek statues to porcelain dolls to digital avatars. Countless generations of artificial humans have fascinated, seduced, and earned the devotion of their flesh and blood creators. Falling in love with statues reveals that these relationships have played an instrumental role throughout human history in our efforts to understand, improve, and empower ourselves. Delving into this phenomenon with erudition and sparkling prose, George Hersey begins in Cyprus, the home of the sculptor Pygmalion, who famously grew enamored of his own creation. And so I believe in this, he also talks about Ovid, talks about Aristotle, talks about
Circe, maybe.
Circe's in here too. And let me see if I can find I believe he has a Daedalus thing in here, because the Labyrinth, there might have been another. So yeah, so Daedalus, so 13 and 34. Let's see what he has here on that. Because the Labyrinth is very important when it comes to the occult, because it's supposed to signify, and this is why in a lot of these cathedrals you have the labyrinth, the maze, right? And allegedly it has something to do with a dance of some sort, right?
Yes.
And it's always underneath the cathedral in some sort of weird way. Okay, so living statues in the West. Let's see here, Daedalus, but because he was the first. All right, so as for ancient Greece, they're the most legendary opener of statues. Mouse was undoubtedly Daedalus. In her notable book, Daedalus and the Origins of Greek Art, Sarah P. Morse describes many living statues attributed to him. The statues were bathed, given changes of clothes, and otherwise cared for as if they were living beings. The best documented such images are of Hera, who was not only bathed and dressed, but regularly had her virginity restored and was remarried. What the? What? Dude, that's bizarre, man, because this is history. Like, this is something that has been done throughout all of history, right? That we have records of. Now, if you want to believe history, now that's a whole nother podcast, a whole other show. But the fact that they're doing this, right, in this symbolic sort of, we have Daedalus, who was the first, I want to say he was like the first tinker, like inventor or something. Like, he's like, that's what he's like really known for.
Yeah.
And didn't he imprison the Minotaur because he wanted to marry it off? Let's look up the story of the Minotaur.
Well, I know that the Minotaur was constantly fed a regular regiment of Vestal virgins, 7 at a time.
It's a sourdough. It's
Yeah,
the sour. You got to feed it the blood of virgins. I got to feed my sourdough the blood of virgins.
Wow, dude.
Every full moon.
Wow.
Oh,
Wow.
Dude. So
that is a trip and a half.
In Greek mythology, the story of the Minotaur and the Labyrinth is about a monster with the head of a bull and the body of a man who was imprisoned in a maze on the island of Crete. Remember, you and I talked about the statues and the titans and everything on the island of Crete?
Yep.
The Minotaur was the child of Pasiphae, the wife king of Minos of Crete, and a white bull sent by Poseidon for sacrifice. She got freaky with the bull. When Minos kept the bull alive instead of sacrificing it, Poseidon made Pasiphae fall in love with the bull and conceive the Minotaur. The Minotaur was said to have an incestuous desire to eat human flesh. The labyrinth was an intricate maze designed by Daedalus to contain the Minotaur and hide its ferocity from the world. Theseus and the Minotaur. Theseus is said to have killed the Minotaur and escaped the labyrinth with the help of a ball of thread given to him by Princess Aridane. Aridani. So arachnid, that's where we get the word arachnid from.
Or maybe, yes, Uradni. Maybe that's the best way.
Here, I'll show you so you can see how it's said, because I don't know how to read. It's right there.
So
I'll read Adene.
So yeah,
you say that
totally. So she is the Eridanus River. It's a minor deacon of Aquarius. And I believe that this river is frozen on ice. I think that the whole film about Frozen is really very
Whoa.
Ariadne oriented. But what's fascinating is in the Eridanus constellation, there is a quantum entanglement location that actually connects to another place in the sky called the Great Void of Boötes. And they kind of make it sound like, you remember in Mario Brothers when you go into one place and come out in upside down in another tube? Yeah, they make it sound like there's a huge warp zone between the Eridani constellation and the Boötes constellation.
It's funny you bring up Mario because I bought my son for Christmas Santa Claus brought him he wanted like some Dance Dance Revolution, and so I got him like this thing, and it also brings like some classic games, and one of them was Super Mario. So we were playing Super Mario, and I suck, dude. Like the classic Super Mario, not like the new stuff, the old stuff, right? And I'm just like trying to beat it, and then I was like, whatever. Like I kept dying on the second level, like where you have to jump over Bowser. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna look up speed runs of this game, and dude, there's speed runs of the 4-minute speed runs of the original Super Mario.
Yes.
It's crazy. But they go in and they kind of jump in and they know exactly where to go. But there's so many different selections of like which tube to go down to, and it determines which next level you go into. And I remember I did an episode that episode that I put together, the presentation, which I'm going to be doing soon, on the palm trees. And what's the guy, Kircher? I've always forgot how to say his first name, but Kircher.
Athanasius Kircher.
Athanasius Kircher. He did some sketches, not only of the pineapple, which I brought up on an episode with Old World Florida, but he did these sketches of like these flying turtles. And it reminded me of the turtles in Super Mario, right? But anyways, that's just a little side note. Like it's like I drew a connection there. I did a whole thing because he also has his own sort of a tree of life and et cetera, et cetera. But point being that I think that maybe reality, maybe Super Mario is like this reflection of what reality could be like. There are different endless rabbit holes, metaphorically or literal. I mean, literally, we know that they're metaphorical for sure and allegorical. You can go down these rabbit holes all day long. But I forgot what I brought up something earlier. I was at the furniture store this past weekend, and I said something to the guy who was talking to me, and I told him life imitates art. I forgot what it was about though. But anyways, yeah, so either life imitates art or art imitates life in some sort of way. And I know we did an episode on the Supervoid that was not too long ago. This Boötes void where it's like, it has the least amount of stars and systems within it out of any place in the sky.
It is such a fascinating enigma to me, but that's exactly correct. It is the largest absence of stars, and it is sometimes has nicknames like a kite, the Great Kite, and in fact, I've seen it depicted in art, particularly in the scenery where Benjamin Franklin is inventing the light bulb. In the strange poetic harmony to that mythology of him inventing the light bulb is that he needed to create a vacuum of space in order to capture the energy of Prometheus to make light stay inside of a jar, maybe like sourdough, keeping something alive inside of a jar. How do you do this? You need to have a negative space somehow.
Ooh, whoa.
And so Boötes, being the shape of a kite, Benjamin Franklin capturing the spirit of lightning and putting it in a jar in a vacuum. It's so strange how our art is actually way more reinforced than I think I'd ever have imagined when I was learning these things. But yeah, there is a consistency to the Benjamin Franklin in the and the kite being actually a constellation that he was mastering. And also, I'll say this: Bovotes is very much in September and into October. It's at the equinox of the fall time of year. And sure enough, that is also the X on the Analema. It markates spark gap symbolically on the Analema. The X is a very sacred time of
Tax day.
the zodiac. You got it. It's the anode of tax day. Yeah.
So check this out here. Again in Homer, we recall that God had hammered gold into the shapes of moving statues of robot servant girls in whom was understanding in their heart and them speech and strength, and they knew cunning handiwork. And by the way,
Yeah.
did you ever hear about Descartes' robot daughter?
No, you got to be kidding me.
You don't know about that story? All right.
You got to
dude.
tell me about that, because I'm actually digging into the Hesiod's theogony and realizing that this is about Pandora and the idea that women were sent here to torment men at large.
Whoa, dude. Relax. All right.
I know. It's very provocative.
We have I think 20% female listeners, so we don't want to upset them, okay?
It's amazing how old that story is.
So Hephaestus also made a giant bronze automaton named Talos to fight off the enemies of Crete. You and I talked about that, and that's in the Argonautica. More artificial life, of course. And then speaking of that island, there was Daedalus, who is said to have made several moving statues along with a wooden one of, this is what you were talking about, this empty space, Aphrodite, who was moved by an internal supply of mercury. Sourdough, right? You got to feed the mercury to the sourdough to keep it alive. And all this, Hephaestus and Daedalus were prescient. They foretold modern theories about automaton robots. They anticipated this book, he says. Footnote 33. So we have here, anyways, check out Hersey's book. I was introduced to his work through the Pythagorean palaces, which I talked about that book, and it went from like $80 to like $600. I don't know what it's at now. And I'm sure there's like an algorithm or something that tracks people talking about books. Pythagorean palaces, Hersey. It's at, how much is it now? Just want to remind everyone, make sure to check out the show on Patreon, patreon.com/the One-on-One Podcast. I constantly get emails. Oh, only one episode a week. Yeah, one episode a week for the public, but for as little as $5 a month, you can get up to 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 1 episode per day on the Patreon, as well as on the YouTube channel as a member for as little as $5. And there's also on the Patreon over 250 episodes only found on there. There's an extensive backlog of episodes. So check that out. For those interested, for those asking, make sure to follow the show on YouTube, One-on-One Podcast. Also, One-on-One Media. I am going live every Tuesday on there streaming. I also go live on twitch.tv/One-on-One Podcast. So make sure to check me out on there Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern. And make sure to get your copy of the Occultist Mundi Homunculus Owner's Manual, all that good stuff at tjojp.com. Can pick up your copies there or go over to the Ko-Fi. I'm on Facebook, Twitch, Kick, Rumble, all that good stuff. You know where to find it, and enjoy this episode. So it's 150. So it went down. All right, it went down. Okay. But it was like, yeah, it was a lot. Anyways, yeah, I purchased it August 11, 2022. And so that book, I don't know what to think of it. I don't know if it's like a grimoire of sorts or what the hell it is, but you can find a copy of it online. This is, I think, why Internet Archive is so important, because there is a copy of it on Internet Archive if you want to check it out. I don't know how complete it is, if it's been changed or not, but again, have at it. I have the physical book because they can still change it through Mandela effect. But anyways, the story of Descartes and the robot girl. So Descartes,
and let's just make sure we mention drones. Right now, there's a big thing about automated, war machines floating through the sky. So this conversation about Descartes and a robot chick, it's very prescient even in modern events.
Interesting. So check out this article here: Descartes' robot daughter and the zombie problem. You've heard of René Descartes, 17th century French philosopher, cogito ergo sum, I think therefore I am, which is one of them. A lot of people know that, right? I think therefore I am. First principles of Enlightenment philosophy and science and all that. You might be less familiar with Descartes' robot daughter, Francine. And I did a short on this a while back. The tale of her birth and gruesome death makes for a wild historical-ish ride in its own right, but it is also finding new relevance in where we at? In the 21st century. The people who study artificial intelligence and robotics are finding it a helpful tool in thinking through one of the most controversial problems now rolling these academic disciplines. Just how human-like should we make AI and robots, right? So yeah, you're right that was a big thing, the whole drones thing before everyone moved on to the fog, and now they're moving on to, I think, like the Tesla truck blowing up in front of the Trump Tower, and I don't know what they got lined up next, but it's only the third day of January, so we'll see what happens. Anyways, let's back it up before we all get a nosebleed. In 1635, Francine Descartes was born, the real flesh and blood, but illegitimate daughter of Descartes and a Dutch servant girl. Yikes. It seems that he loved them both so much that he broke with his fairly serious convention to live with them. Just as he was getting ready to bring 5-year-old Francine back to France, that's interesting, Francine back to France for a proper education. However, the little girl contracted scarlet fever and died, and that's when things get weird, or when things got weird. Mm-hmm. So you're sending me stuff, right? You want me to pull that up here in a little bit?
Yeah, in a little bit when we're done. I'm seeing a very large theme regarding we should pay more attention to the female side of these biographies. I'm actually seeing a pattern here that I never knew there was there was such a story.
Oh, it gets weird. Yeah, so the brief existence of Francine Descartes is all properly substantiated, but it's not where her story ends. If you believe some slightly less rigorously documented but widely replicated lore, in addition to coining a foundational principle of Western philosophy, Descartes was also famous for building intricate automata. So he liked to build little automata. He loved clockwork dolls and mechanical creations. Clockwork elves, perhaps, too, right? And then the voyage to the world of Cartesius. One of my favorite episodes ever, and I think that book is real. And so when Francine died, he was so racked with grief that he decided to build a mechanical replica, supposedly indistinguishable from the girl as she had been in life. Now, I don't know if you've ever read this book, Descartes' Black Book. So I really wanted to interview this author. And this is not a good look, right? The Secret Black Book. No, what's it called? Descartes' Secret. I'm sorry. Descartes' Secret Notebook, a true tale. So, dude, this book is wild. So, a true tale of mathematics, mysticism, and the quest to understand the universe. Descartes' Secret Notebook. This guy's passed away now. Okay, I couldn't interview him, but this book, is wild, dude. This book is crazy. You can find a copy online somewhere. If anyone wants to read it, hit me up. I'll send you a PDF copy. It's bananas. Okay. Anyways, I think Descartes, regardless of what they say in the mainstream, I think he was into some deep stuff. I think he was, bro. He was having visions, dude. Yeah, he was having visions on the battlefield. Like this dude was a mystic. Like he was hardcore into the occult, in my opinion. And I think that the Cartesian coordinate system is a tablet of manifestation. It's something that brings forth the 2D into the 3D space, and you're able to manifest things. And I think that's how they were able to do, Enochian squares and all that stuff. But that's besides the point. Nice. But Descartes goes hard. All right. So here we have him reanimating, right? Maybe some necromancy, which he was accused of. Mm-hmm. Details vary from account to account, but most agree this robotic Francine traveled everywhere with him. She would sleep in a kind of casket next to his bed. And then this is where it gets again, we're touching on stuff that we've talked about before. So in 1646, Christina of Sweden, with the Porta Alchemica, the alchemical door, right? We have that connection with Christina of Sweden. She had copies, dude. She had so many crazy books in her library, in her collection. And she was so baller that she was like, hey, I want the best of the best to teach me about philosophy and teach me about everything else. Mind you, she was an alchemist. So she calls for Descartes. That's how baller she was, dude, that she calls for Descartes to be her tutor. Right? There's one problem.
He's a pussy.
What?
He's a pussy. He got sick in the snow.
Yeah, I was gonna say that he loved to sleep in, and she killed him because she would make him wake up too early.
Whoa, that actually kind of vindicates the theory that women were put here to make men miserable.
Well, you said that. I didn't say that. But yeah, so if we want to follow the lore and be correct, Christina of Sweden did kill Descartes because she made him wake up. That's how the story goes. He contracted pneumonia and like died. Okay, so whatever. This is how the story goes. But Christina of Sweden was hardcore into alchemy, and she had some crazy books in her library. Let's look up some of the books because they're actually book collection here, because there's some that are interesting in there. So let's see here. Own.
You know, for some reason, I'm reminded that Mary Shelley, when she wrote the story of Frankenstein, she was on a literary holiday, and she was reading, while she was writing Frankenstein, she was reading Marquis de Sade. She was studying the namesake of sadomasochism.
Really?
Yeah, and that was kind of what was fertilizing her mind space while she was writing the Frankenstein, which is basically, you know, another mech bot concept. Mind control, man-made.
Sex bot? Yeah.
Sex bot, yeah.
So here, let me see if I can find. There was is it this one?
And I've been saying that it's not climate change. It's actually climb bitch agony, which is Pandora was given the spirit of a bitch in heat by Hermes as the final gift before she was launched onto man. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying if you're going to read it honestly, that's how it comes through.
So we have here, I'm trying to find the books that she had, because she has some crazy books, dude. Anyways, I can't find it, but yeah, this is, again, her connection with the alchemical door and Descartes. Again, this is all around, you know, the same time, kind of, sort of. And if you haven't heard about the alchemical door, I did a whole episode on it. I think you were on that episode, weren't you, Slick?
I think so. Yep.
The Porta Alchemica. Anyways, here we go. So in her list, bro, she had Asclepius, Trithemius's Stenographia, John Dee's Monus Hieroglyphica. So her involvement tended to increase toward the end of her life. In the summer of 1667 in Hamburg, Christina experimented with the Messianic prophet and alchemist Giuseppe Francisco Borri, which I translated a book on him. It's in the Patreon, and from what I've heard, every now and again, translations of books pop up on the Patreon every now and again, right? So if you want to read about Giuseppe Francisco Borri, the elusive alchemist that jumped through the alchemical door one night, right? He broke in and jumped through. Christina at this time also corresponded with alchemist Johann Rudolf Glauber. She also took interest in the phosphorus discovered by Henning Brandt. In her collection of spiritual medieval manuscripts, counting over 2,000 items. Also, she had some relics from the Habsburg, from Prague as well in there. Are included texts by Joachim de Fiore and Campanella. Also on the list, Hermetic Asclepius. Her collection includes Trithemius's Stenographia, which that he was the mentor of Agrippa.
Yeah.
And he also inspired John Dee. John Dee's Monus Hieroglyphica. She also owned parts of the Picatrix, which the Picatrix also has some parts on how to create a homunculus. So I'm just going to put that out there. It's got parts of the Liber Vitae in there, and Latin versions of the Sephora Raziel, a book of angelic magic. Her collections of printed books counted to several thousand items, included Paracelsus's works, alchemical works of Johannes Theornisier, I don't know who the hell that is, Andreas Libavius. In 1655, she gave a large collection of alchemical manuscripts from Prague to her librarian Isaac Vossius. These were once owned by Rudolf II and are written in the German, Czech, and Latin, or that's not how you say Czech. I've gotten cooked before. Is it, how do you say, is it Czech? Czech? All right.
Or is it maybe Zeke?
No, that's not how you say it. Anyways, there's a way you say it. Who cares?
Oh, Czech.
Zech. Yeah, something like that. Anyways, I've been cooked before by saying it wrong. And Latin languages, a collection which now resides at the Codices Vossiani Chimici at the University of Leiden. Christina's books are listed in a document now at the Bodleian Library, Oxford. It is prefaced by a drawing of a rose in full bloom with the text. The corresponding list of the Vatican carries a Bible drawn. So I think she was part of the Rosicrucian movement, dude. I think that they were like the first, Rosicrucians. Carries a Bible. Check this out, honey. We'll go to your bitterness. Emblems that combine reminds us of Robert Flood's "Be Adorned Rose and Cobweb" of the Summum Bonum. Perhaps may indicate a more mainstream mysticism. Robert Flood. Robert Flood was another hardcore. I love Robert Flood, dude. Let's take a look at this real quick. Oof. Oh, yeah. Right there.
Yeah.
There it is, dude. All right. So back again to this. So Christina Sweden, hardcore into alchemy, killed our boy Descartes. She took us too soon. She took him from us too soon because she made him wake up too early in the morning.
Yeah, man.
And allegedly that's how he came up with the idea of the Cartesian coordinate system, which I remember reading something else. This is Mandela effect. I remember reading something else that he actually discovered it through a series of dreams, but how the mainstream story goes that while laying in bed one day, because he liked to sleep in, he was laying down and he saw a fly on the wall, which is really interesting because the way that animals and memetics work, they say that God or the source or the one or whatever it is sends messages to people through the use of animals. I guess you could call a fly an animal, right? It's part of the insect realm, whatever.
Totally. And, Socrates was called the gadfly of Athens.
Really?
Yeah. And that's because he had a demonic spirit that would buzz in his ear to give him warning signals of what not to do in life. And so this is very symbolic of like Jiminy Cricket and the idea that even when a bug flies through your space, you should take that as an augur because they are tuned into the detritus as a substratum of the divine.
Whoa. Oh, dude, that's crazy. So the fact that he was allegedly laying down and he saw a fly on the wall, and he wanted to coordinate how he could tell somebody where the fly was on the wall. So he said, X, 2, Y, blah, 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 right? Oh,
yep.
I just came up with one of the greatest discoveries of all time, dude. Right? So whatever, that's the mainstream story. Anyways.
That's right. It's his brainchild. He named it. He gave it its destiny when he conceived of it and put it on paper.
The sourdough homunculus, dude.
That's right.
It's going to be in the title of this episode. Let me write that down. Let me make sure I haven't taken and used that before. So shout out to the Emperor because he knows what's up. He's the one he's been pounding me hard about the sourdough. All right, so sourdough homunculus. Here we go. All right.
And I love how, science is a seance. And,
100%.
The terms and these concepts that are born out of these guys who are long dead men of renown, we still have to pay their due props when we use their formulas,
Yeah, and that plays a role into like how you've always said. One of the things that when we first started podcasting together all those years ago, one of the things that you've always said that there are a lot of gods encoded within our language that we always talk about and always mention.
Yes. So, and, Nietzsche kind of says that we get weird when our words get close to causality. We start doing little language tricks on our own mind. We do sleight of hand. And so one example is we would say that the lightning flashes. But really, because he was a real nerd about philology, we're actually kind of saying the flashy thing flashes. We're repeating the same thing twice. There's actually no object in the sentence. And we're doing sleight of hand on ourselves. And I would say that it's because the real way to say what we want to say is to say Zeus flashes. We're supposed to have deified characters as standing in for the object we're trying to articulate.
Whoa.
But yeah, we're supposed to have elemental godlike language around causality. But we do sleight of hand on ourselves because we've been Christianized. Our mind has been colonized by the Christian mentality. There can only be the Holy Trinity. But back in the days, there were many things, like when the earthquake, what is the cause of the earthquake? It's Neptune. It had an actual causality elementally. You got me ranting. You got me ranting.
That would kind of be like animated. So in a way, like animating statues to where you're using language to animate the ideas in some sort of way, giving them power, right? Like they say that, spells, spelling, grimoire, grammar, like that kind of plays a role into that, dude. And etymology, and even the Falconelli talked about the the phonetic Kabbalah, right? About how that also plays a role into everything. He was hardcore into a whole bunch of different stuff, which I'm going to bring up here. He talked about the Argonauts too as well, and the Golden Fleece and all that. So we have in 1646, Christina of Sweden summoned Descartes to her castle and sent a ship for him as ever the casket went where he went. And at night he would take her out of the casket in his cabin and wind her up and talk to her.
Whoa.
This is how the story goes, right? So check this out. He goes, accounts vary on what happened next, but most converge on the idea that the ship had encountered bad weather and the superstitious crew was getting spooked, hearing the chatter in Descartes' supposedly single room at night. Suspecting some kind of witchcraft, it's always witchcraft, apparently either the captain or the deckhand broke into the philosopher's cabin while he slept, opened the casket, and were horrified by what they found there. Some accounts insist that she sat up on her own volition, but this taxes even the most credulous mind. So check this out. And this is this kind of plays into what you've been saying, that women were put here to torment men a little bit, because these guys were kind of based a little bit. In any case, the petrified crew grabbed the robot Francine and ran her up to the deck, where they smashed her to pieces, threw them into the sea. According to one obscure account unearthed by Min Soo Kang at the University of Missouri, St. Louis, the captain tossed the automaton overboard. The captain tossed the automaton overboard because, quote, it worked well enough like a woman with a soul, meaning not very much. So this dude's like throwing jabs at women there. Those were his words, not mine.
Oh, that's cool.
All right, so yeah, that's it's kind of weird there. Faced with the unbearable grief of losing her a second time, the story goes, Descartes succumbed to death shortly after. So it wasn't Christina of Sweden that woke him up too early and all this. It was actually that they threw away his sex doll or something weird shit that he had. I don't know. It is bizarre, man. Like this is so Descartes with Christina of Sweden shortly before his death. Again, we have this concept now of how you're saying these drones. People are freaking out. Or are they AI? Or are they of the government? Or are they what would they say, Iran or something like that? Who's funding them? And if it's Iran, then it's Russia or blah blah blah. Like all this shit, right? That never really. What happened to them? Did they go away or what? Like, have we heard anything else?
Well, one thing that's kind of fascinates me is how so many people are like, they've been here longer than people started making a fuss. Internationally speaking, that people are just basically being conditioned. I'm thinking a great deal about future shock. It's becoming harder and harder to hit people with a sense of, oh, this is progress. Oh, look at how the new innovative way to terrorize humanity. And this Tesla truck that exploded, I just keep seeing a flashback to Demolition Man. Do you remember Demolition Man with Wesley Snipes?
No.
There's a scene in
It was
Demolition
before
Man.
my time. It was 93.
Okay. There's a scene in here where a group of rebels actually raid a Taco Bell. And I kid you not, they pull up in a vehicle that looks just like the Tesla vehicle that exploded.
No.
I'm not even kidding you. If you pull up the Taco Bell scene, and press play, you'll see they pull up in something that looks very much like some kind of Tesla wannabe
That
van.
thing? This thing?
Let's see.
Or the Pizza Hut?
That one.
Mandela effect.
Oh, they switched it?
Yeah, they switched it on us, dude. It's a Mandela effect. So the Taco Bell scene, Demolition Man. Here, let's play this. So they're riding around. This is 93, dude.
93. Illuminati confirmed. And then here, Age of Aquarius on the plate there.
Oh, they didn't show the scene where they pull up.
No, they didn't show the vehicle. But it is also, it's at the fancy entrance of a fancy location.
Pizza. It's not Taco Bell, that's why. Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut dinner. This one's longer. Here we go. I'm gonna have to watch this movie. I've never seen this movie. So these guys are here. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
And it's not a Cybertruck. They came out of the walls.
Totally. They wiped it on us.
They wiped it, dude. They wiped it, bro.
Man, freaking Belphegor. Toilet paper spell, y'all.
Damn
Bird flu.
Belphegor's prime. Damn you.
Bird flu is an anagram for Belphegor, y'all.
All right, so so the main thing right now people are freaking out about is and I don't know if you saw this clip that Rogan had put out with the guy, was it Don Lemon from I don't know which mainstream media, but he was talking about how Elon Musk is actually the president now.
Basically.
You heard about that?
Well, I guess that's just a really shortcut way to say, yeah, we know who's calling the shots. We really know who's calling the shots. Did you see the display of thousands of dollars per rice grain? And this is how much rice, $100,000 income. This is how much the senators make. And they were using rice grains in little piles of rice. And they had Trump's pile of rice and how much he was worth. And then they showed everybody Tesla's pile of rice. It was insanity. It was just insanity.
This thing?
There it is. Yes, this.
It was on TikTok. Man uses rice to visually represent Jeff Bezos' net worth. That guy?
Yeah. And I think he actually does Tesla ultimately. So maybe this is an earlier version.
Here, let's pull this up. Let's see here. So,
but it does say 1 million words. You're just seeing these piles of rice and you're like, oh, okay.
That's from 4 years ago. Can you hear this?
1 million, 1 billion, Jeff Bezos is 120.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
So the moment you've been waiting for, 100K, 1 million, 1 billion, Jeff Bezos is 122 of these, or 58 pounds of rice.
Whoa.
If each grain of rice was 100K. The scale of $1 billion is really crazy. So let's say 1 grain of rice is equivalent to 100K, and 10 grains of rice would be then 1 million. Well, how much is 1 billion? So my Saturday night consisted of counting 10,000 grains of rice one by one, just to show you guys how much $1 billion is. Of course I filmed it, and of course I time-lapsed it, and this is playing at, I don't even know, God knows how fast it's playing at, but
oh my God.
So now I'm proud to present to you the results. That is $1 billion, where each grain of rice is worth 100K. Look how much rice this is, guys. That's crazy. I just bought you like a Lamborghini right here, and I didn't even notice it was gone. Here's a $5 million house in California. And oh, look, I still have all this money. Well, a lot of you guys asked me, well, how much does Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos have in terms of rice? So that was my mission. I went to Target, I bought a digital food scale, I came home, and then I weighed the rice that was worth 1 billion from earlier. I did the math in my head, and I went to Costco. I got the rice, I brought it home, and once I brought it home, I went to work. I also want to say that I have 5 families that are going to take this unused rice, so it's totally not wasteful.
Or at least he donated
Okay,
it
so
to
the moment
a
you're
friend.
400K, 1 million, 1 billion, Jeff Bezos is 122 of these, or 58 pounds of rice. if each grain of rice was 100K. Like, look how big this is, guys.
Bro, like, you know, money is one of those things that, unfortunately, we all know it's a scam. Like, we know that the government is corrupt, and we know that there are a lot of things happening behind the scenes. Is there a lizard people cabal in charge of everything? I don't know, right? Like, that's like the conspiracy of things, because it always seems like you have a end product of something, and then the conspiracy is, how did we get there? But the thing already happened, right? So we have the Luigi guy, which I know you wanted to talk about.
Yep.
We have the Luigi thing, but then the conspiracy is like, oh, why do you do it? Who was helping him? Blah, blah, blah. Is it the same guy? The eyebrow doesn't match. The nose doesn't match. Like, all this craziness, right? And I love people who give, evidence for a conspiracy is other conspiracies. So we go back again, dude. The ship, right? So if you replace all the boards on the ship, is it the same ship? So if you replace, I don't know, we can tie that into conspiracy somehow. But anyways, I mean, how many conspiracies does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? Like, who knows? We won't ever know, because it's just an endless rabbit hole, and I think it's part of it. And I think money's like the same way too. It's like, you can work all your life to make money. Does it ever really matter at the end of the day, like how much money you made? Like, no. And it's something that people have been sucked into since the beginning of time, since these freaking alchemists got their hands on it.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So a great amount of my holiday was taking in more film
Counting
than
rice?
I normally do. Yeah, totally. Watching way more of the modern cinematic investments. And so 3 films have really impacted me heavily. I mean, all at once in the past week. I went back and I rewatched Shogun, which is a favorite book from when I was younger. I think I read the whole series twice. I think I've seen the cinematic episodes that they released in 1980. I've seen that twice now. And then they just released a new Shogun on Hulu. And I went through and I binge watched the whole thing. And it is amazing, the scale of international intrigue and cloak and dagger and manipulation of the masses that I see put on offer. But yeah, this is something I'm going to be weaving on here soon, because the actress who is the kind of the love interest, let me tell it this way. 44 years ago, John Lennon was assassinated at the front of the Dakota building, and this was encoded into the Ghostbusters film. And John Lennon was falling in love with an Asian woman, and that was what broke up the Beatles, is because this Englishman was marrying an Asian woman, and this caused the breakup of the Beatles. Well, sure enough, at the same time, 1980, that he was assassinated is the same year that Shogun came out as a miniseries on TV. And it's about the Englishman marrying an Asian woman. and so there's a lot of, I see kind of royal houses signaling to each other in, in plain sight. But Mariko in the new series has been repackaged into the craziest social engineering dynamic I've ever seen. Juan, can you, in our text messaging, can you pull up the first one I sent to you?
Those all the images you're going to send me?
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done sending them. But can you pull up the earliest one I sent? Because Mariko, the love interest of Shogun, she's been packed into a modern day pandemic relief character named Win Linyan. And more, her name, Win Linyan. Thank you. Yes. This is crazy, y'all. This is absolutely bonkers. But this character, so in the film Shogun, the fictional character in the background, her name is Mariko. She has a death scene where she puts her body up against a door that's about to be exploded with the detonation device. This lady, Win Linyan, she was a crisis actor at the Boston bombing. And so her real biography is a perfect overlap onto Mariko from Shogun. And so they are taking the fictional sentimental value of the protagonists in film, and they're harmonizing it to the real biography of world manipulators on the stage. And so she's also a whiny lamb, is kind of the king's gallows humor, is an anagram out of her name. But this is the chick that's going to bring us bird. And they put everybody's harmonic correspondence into her biography that is the correspondent to the fictional story of Mariko from Shogun. It is so potent and powerful.
So are all movies just a way of, right, we have Grant Morrison and we have Alan Moore putting their occult stuff into their works of art. I mean, I've called them, right, the cinemagicians. So is all cinema just that, dude? A way of,
Yes.
is some here for entertainment and then some here for these magical occult purposes, or like how does it work? And then
Yeah.
what happens, because you have life imitating art or art imitating life? Which happens first? Which is the mother? Question.
You know, I would say there is a fine line between imitating art or rather, if art is imitating life, I often might tweak this to art is mocking life, as though to provoke it into a reaction.
Oh, okay.
And that might be an interesting alchemical tweak to the formula, that art is actually provoking or persuading or coercing life into a response. Can you flip to the next one?
And also, let me know which one, because I got a few here.
That was it. The one with Bannon.
This one?
There you go. Yeah, this is funny.
So here, really quick, because I think I was on a podcast recently with the Occult Rejects, and I forgot who it was. I don't know if it was Jin or who it was, but they talked about doing might have not been them, but talking about meta. I think it was called metafiction.
Yes.
Where you take reality and turn it into a story, and you do something with that. Like, I think that's again, memetics there. That's like the most powerful form of magic in a sort of way. How you're saying you're that you put in such a great way. They're using these stories to tempt reality to invoke a change, which is kind of it's ceremonial magic. Yes, in a way. You're invoking, like me last night doing the prayer that Vayer does before invoking the demons, so that way the demons pay more attention to you.
Totally, man.
In some sort of way.
Yeah, and you know, and what's fascinating to me is that this aspect of near rhymes. Like right here, I have, you know, Bannon is in the war room, and why is it that the word Wolverine has to be just like just one harmonic away from a perfect anagram to the truth of what they're trying to convey? And so I'm seeing this as twisted. It's roundabout. It's not direct. It's just outside of perfect candor and high fidelity to the truth. It's just lying a little bit into the gray space. And I think this is a good example how Wolverine Steve Bannon has been encoded in a great many of the, you know, Hollywood heroes. When Mark Hamill, the guy who plays Luke Skywalker.
Hamill?
Thank you. Mark Hamill. Yes, Mark Hamill came back as Luke Skywalker, and he looked so much like Steve 1+7 Anon. Yeah, they're totally playing around with our heroic associations.
And this isn't just any like Joe Schmo cartoon, right? This is like cultural shifting, you know, like these drawings have shifted entire cultures and communities. I mean, this is not, is Wolverine, what is that, Marvel or is it DC?
Good question.
Wolverine is, and we'll find out here in a second. It is part of the
X-Men is
Marvel.
okay. Thank you. I'm very gray on some of the corporate overlapping.
And it's interesting. Let me see here something, because Stan Lee, he was part of what? He was part of Marvel, and Stan Lee. I heard somebody, right? Stan Lee, Spider-Man, Deadpool, Avengers. Oof, I mean, so many. And it's interesting, right? Because we're talking about using, bro, Spider-Man, X-Men, Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, Ant-Man, the Wasp, Fantastic Four, Black Panther, Daredevil, Doctor Strange, the Scarlet Witch, Black Widow. This guy's like in there. And it's interesting that he would put himself in his movies. And I heard there was somebody talking. He was actually part of the military too.
Right. I always point out that Marvel Avengers sounds so much like Merovingian.
I love that, dude. I love that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
man.
hell yeah. So there was an actor who was talking that I think they were doing like a tribute to him or something like that, that Stan Lee has been in more movies than any actor that he has ever known, professional actors. I wonder how many movies was Stan Lee in? Stan Lee. He would put himself in his work of arts. He would insert himself in there. He's been in 37 Marvel movies as a cameo character.
And he's always got one quick line. I've always wanted to see every line he's ever said on a list and see what kind of, big puzzles.
Ooh, dude. Stan Lee. Are they one-liners, right? One-liners?
Almost always, which is kind of the stoic Epicurean nod to the inner circle of like brevity is the marcation of wit.
Let's ask the old divination table here, aka ChatGPT, to see what it says. Compile a list of all the one-liners Stan Lee has said in his 37 movie appearances. I was gonna say if he was in more movies than Nick Cage, but nobody goats the goat. Right.
Right.
He's not even close. He's not even close to
37.
being.
Yeah, 37 is a very magical number. It's the 21st prime or 12th. It's the 12th prime number. And 3, the law of 3 and the law of 7 are very pivotal to the Enneagram.
Oh God, dude. Hold on.
It's also the Mason-Dixon line.
Hold on, dude. Whoa. I just read something. Hold on. So I asked ChatGPT, compile a list of all the one-liners Stan Lee has said in his 37 movie appearances. Stan Lee, the legendary co-creator of numerous Marvel superheroes, made memorable cameo appearances in many Marvel films, often delivering brief but impactful lines. Now, I don't know if these are 100%, so just in case, we'd have to fact check every single 37 one of these. Okay, so just in case, but some of them stood out to me, okay? Hulk, 2003. As a security guard, he remarks to his colleague, I know some people who are going to be pretty upset. Okay, that was 2003. 2005, Fantastic Four. Portraying mailman Willie Lumpkin, he greets the team with, "Welcome back to the Baxter Building, Dr. Richards." Spider-Man 3, standing next to Peter Parker, he observes, I guess one person can make a difference. Enough said. Iron Man 2008, mistaken for Hugh.
That's right.
Mistaken for Hugh Hefner, he responds with a surprise, "Hey, Tony," when greeted by Tony Stark. Iron Man 2, this time mistaken for Larry King. He exclaims, "Tony," when Stark passes by. Thor, after attempting to pull Thor's hammer with his truck, he asks, "Did it work?" The Avengers, in a news interview, he skeptically comments, "Superheroes in New York, give me a break." The Amazing Spider-Man 2012 as a librarian, oblivious to the battle behind him. He hums a tune while wearing headphones. Oh yeah, I remember that scene where he's like in the library and the craziness is happening behind him. Iron Man 3 appearing as a beauty pageant judge. He enthusiastically holds up a scoreboard exclaiming yeah. Thor, the Dark World, in a mental institution, he asks, "Can I have my shoe back?" after lending it for a demonstration.
Whoa, just like Chump in the shooting when he dodged the bullet.
Wow. So no. Well, did he ask for a shoe back?
He said, "I need my shoe." He left his Sobek on shoes. His subconscious was left open for the teachable moment.
No, for real?
Yeah, when Chump got shot, he lost his shoe.
That was Thor, the Dark World 2013.
Wow, very fascinating.
What is that?
Yeah, they have promulgated that entire ritual 1,000 times in cinema before they put it up on the barnyard wall. It's literally on the backdrop of a barn door. You couldn't shoot the broadside of a barn door. We're looking at the broadside of a barn door when the Chump shot, when he dodged the bullet.
So allegedly, this is the movie that it's from.
Okay.
Thor, the Dark World. In ancient times, the gods of Asgard fought and won a war against the evil race known as the Dark Elves. The survivors were neutralized, and their ultimate weapon, the Aether, was buried in a secret location. Hundreds of years later, Jane Foster, Natalie Portman, finds the Aether and becomes its host, forcing Thor to bring her to Asgard before Dark Elf Melkith captures her and uses the weapon to destroy the 9 realms, including what?
Yeah, buddy.
Becomes its host, dude. It's like again, the Merovingians is ringing a lot more truer with what you just said with this movie, dude.
Buddy,
the Holy Grail.
Big time. I'll tell you what. Pull up the next little graphic I sent to you. The one with the remember, she's talking about the ether and this inception of a power, of an alien power or an alien force.
Which one is it?
The one with the geometric shapes. This one. So Kenneth Arnold's account of the first UFO that it originally called flying discs. And the word flying discs was a common sport back then. It was a household terminology. And so he describes having seen a flying disc. I just want to point out that Kenneth Arnold has the word ether in the middle of his name. And his description of his vision of what he was seeing is actually encoding the Thoth deck tarot cards in particular. And so 1947, the CIA is founded, the Dead Sea Scrolls are inseminated into the next wave of religious zeal, religious zealotry. They've paved it all from 1947 on. And they're never off the script. This is my point, that they have inseminated the visual ingredients of the tarot cards into the entire culture that LSD and analytic philosophy and analytic psychology is built out of. We are all inside of a shared psychedelic experience. And the Thoth deck tarot cards are kind of the map of the art that is provoking life. You keep saying art imitates life. I want to say art is provoking life because it's time for action. It's time for action. So yeah, I just made this graphic to kind of convey how Kenneth Arnold has embedded the Thoth deck tarot cards into the ethers of the culture, your cult of culture.
So we have here one of the ones that stood out to me, which is going to be interesting to you, I believe. Let's see here. Where the hell is it at? Oh, man. So Doctor Strange, 2016, laughing on a bus. He exclaims, "That is hilarious," while reading The Doors of Perception. Was he really reading The Doors of Perception?
Yeah, I remember that. I totally remember that one.
The Doors of Perception, a book where the author experiences a great change in perception in an external world. But isn't that Aldous Huxley, dude? Oh,
Aldous
wow.
Huxley died on the same day as JFK. C.S. Lewis, Aldous Huxley, and JFK all died on the exact same day.
11/22.
You got it. Yep.
33.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, 11/22. Wow, age 69. That's wild, dude. A Brave New World. Yeah, that's actually from Shakespeare too. A Brave New World.
Yeah.
It's from The Tempest.
Right.
Where she's talking about a brave new world, before they depart.
Yes. And bravery is actually on my Enneagram. It's basically bringing my thoughts to this number 6. Is a loyalist with a shadow of fear and a remedial virtue of bravery, courage, or valor. So that is to say that they want to harmonize people's associative principle around a number 6 personality type, which is good. That's all fine. But it maps out on my system very clearly with specific words that are related to the sexiness of the 6 and the sex in the city. Even 15 man nut cities, all 15 reduces to the 6. So there's a bunch of seduction around all things 6y. So yeah, then I went and I took my all the matriarchs in my family to go see Wicked. And
that
sure
came
enough,
out on 11/22, by the way.
Oh yeah, bingo bango, home run out the park, buddy. That's amazing. That's amazing. So these characters, I can see right through them because of my works with the tarot cards. But Juan, for almost 24 hours, I was seeing things incorrectly. I kept thinking, why does Wizard of Oz need to fulfill the tarot cards? Why is it again expressing high fidelity? And I realized I got it wrong. It's actually the tarot cards are based on the Wizard of Oz. And when I made that realization, I think I've found a deeper source code to the culture creation that these cards have been doing for so long. Can you bring up the larger scale with the tarot cards around it? The next picture over. Maybe keep going.
No, that's all I got from you, dude.
Oh, is it? Hold on. I'm going to send you one more because I've discovered that their costume is the tarot cards are the costume department of Hollywood.
Oh, I think I got it. Hold on. No, I have another one with like a red hat.
Here, I got you. I'm going to send it right now.
Oh, I got it. And then I got the one with the red hat now. I just didn't download.
Oh, okay.
But I'll send them now. But yeah, I was at Universal Studios, and they had a whole exhibit thing on the Wizard of or Wicked or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And it had real big, and before we left the park, we went in, and they had like this whole thing with like the props from like the movie, like I'm sure the replicas and all this stuff. But it stood out to me because really big on the side of the building that they had this exhibit on, it freaking showed 11/22, and I'm like, I look over at I think it was my wife's best friend's husband, and I was like, did you know that's when JFK was assassinated, 11/22? Like, I had to let her know real quick. Again, not everybody knows that. I'm like, well, and it also equals 33. So
yeah, man.
What an interesting day to pick, huh?
Yeah, man. It's so amazing how consistent it is for so long, but that's part of the provocation. And also it is giving us future shock. That's another thing. This was 44 years ago that from the John Lennon being executed outside the Dakota building. And sure enough, Hollywood is triggering our fear response so tactically. It's amazing. So you can see her name is Galenda. She's the one who floats around in the pink bubble, right? She has always been the star card, Juan. She's been the star card since these cards were invented.
Bro, this is a kind of creepy resemblance, dude.
Yes. And even Alphaba, the witch, she's a black actress. Well, the witch has always been based on this death card in particular. And then these characters, these stories are so old, and they're just bringing them to the big screen. And when they do it, they are dressing them perfectly into the costume department of the Aleister Crowley Thoth Tarot deck. And I got to tell you something. So I'm 99% sure I'm not even missing a single character. I'm 99% sure that I've got this locked down, all the way down to the goat. There's actually a talking goat in the story, and sure enough, that's the devil card here. But dude, something weird happened over the holidays. I was watching Nuke's top 5 is haunted house videos. People catch paranormal stuff on video. Dude.
Just wasting time.
Yeah, man.
Ghost caught on camera. It's nothing.
It's nuts. You know what happens? I find out he's actually running through the tarot card sequences, and he's selected the videos in stride with the archetypes of the tarot deck. And I think by doing that, he can actually charge the tarot deck with emotional investment. It becomes, sigil capture of a sort.
So, damn, it's like, okay, The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah,
that we should do a deep dive on that. And
let's go.
Not the that we've all seen, that we all know, like The Wizard of Oz, the Yellow Brick Road. Like, no, I'm talking about like go deep, because he was a theosophist, wasn't he? Like, he was heavy into like Helena Blavatsky and like all, and he wrote like what 30 something books. How many Wizard of Oz books are there? Let me check here.
I feel like 39.
Many Wizard of Oz books are there? There is 40 books.
Wow, that's a 40 degrees of Virgo.
There are 40 books in the Wizard of Oz series, including the original 14 books by L. Frank Baum and 26 additional books by other authors. So there's the original 14, yes, right? And then additional 26. The Wizard of Oz franchise has also been adapted into 70 movies, TV shows, and stage plays.
Cornerstone of culture. Total cornerstone.
Dude, 100%. The 1939 version of The Wizard of Oz is considered by many to be the best. I've never seen it. I'm going to be honest with you. Yeah, I started watching it one day with my wife because she's like, oh, you've never seen The Wizard of Oz? I was like, no. She's like, let's watch it. We turn on. I was like, what is this? Like, turn the shit off. Like, I don't want to watch this. So there's something to be said about The Wizard of Oz. And I think maybe it has something to do with him. They sacrificed that poor girl, that first girl that they used for those movies. Yeah.
Yep, they even the Tin Man, he died from the makeup.
The witch, the original dude, they sacrificed all those people, bro.
Yes, all of them were suffering horribly for the entire film because they were basically being cooked under an oven.
Yes, dude.
And the makeup was too thick, and
so we should do a deep dive on that. But I want to just touch on this, what I'm gonna dub the tarot technology, because.
Yeah, buddy.
Dude, this is bizarre. Like, if you look at this, you go, okay, it's schizo, whatever. But there's a resemblance, bro.
You're feeling it, don't you?
It's kind of scary. Like, for those listening, just pop up, the YouTube video and look at the resemblances. If you have never, for the regular person going to watch this on 11/22/33. Same day JFK was assassinated and all that stuff. Near the Baphomet head, by the way. The regular person would never, ever see this. It took Slick Dissident to put this together, to bring it to the world, to show that there's like this crazy resemblance. Now, my whole question is, Slick, like, what for, dude? Like, what is it? Hear me out. Is tarot fake and gay, or is there some? Yeah, let me rephrase this. Is there something to the original tarot, which goes back all the way to Milan, and the original family, the Sforza family that was integrating family members into the earliest tarot deck, which, by the way, the devil card is missing because some people suspect that it was stolen to be worshipped, which is crazy, which is wild. Is there something to tarot? And not the that people do with it now where they put their hands over it and they feel their nipples and they go, oh, the energy is here, and then that's it. Like, is there, what is it? Like, why do they use it? Why does it have any significance? Why does it have any power? Is it bringing forth the archetypes from the abyss and doing something? Was Crowley tapped in by him putting this deck together, which looks really eerily similar to this movie? And you would think, like, these bright colors that they use in this movie, and like, I don't know if you saw all the interviews with the Ariana Grande, which if you look at the before and after pictures of her, she looks sick in this new one. Like, again, like the original Wizard of Oz, but it's almost MK Ultra. If you look at the interviews that they do, it's almost very inauthentic the way they promoted this movie. But what is it, dude, about this tarot technology? Is it real? How big was this movie? How much did the box, did it?
Well, that's a good question. I didn't actually pay attention to the numbers it put up.
Was it good? Did you like it?
I actually did enjoy it, but primarily because I see it as, social engineering, and I call it the promulgation protocols. Promulgation is actually a public display where they're serving you notice, just like Martin Luther going out and nailing a public notice on the door of his 95 Theses. This is promulgation, literally has the word hammer in it. The mull is the hammer of putting this on notice.
The Maleficarum.
The Maleficarum, bro, the witch of the wicked witch.
Dude, bro, Vayer, dude. Look into Vayer. And also,
yes.
Have you ever seen the movie Vitch with the girl from the Queen's Gambit?
No,
with the
but I bet
talking goat?
It sounds like it loops right in.
With the talking goat.
Damn, bro.
By the way, this movie grossed $635 million.
Interesting. It's got a 365 kind of scrambled in there.
Yeah, so it's not. It wasn't as unsuccessful as I had originally thought. So 635 million is not too bad. But I wonder what the Wicked musical budget. Let's see what the budget was. 150 million.
Okay. Well, some fascinating things we were talking about earlier about, I'm starting to realize that we should pay more attention to the female biographies of the masculine culture creators, like we did with Descartes earlier. I've always corresponded to this death card, which is in the shape of the Hercules constellation. I've always associated it with Freud. But after I went to see The Wonderful Wizard, this new film, The Wicked, I'm looking at the death card.
Oh, dude.
Relating to Freud's daughter, Anna Freud. And so now I'm looking at the female correspondences to the biographies, and Anna Freud was put on the map because of her relationship with Friedrich Nietzsche's unrequited love. Louis Simone. Go ahead. What you got?
There it is. Wicked. The most wickedest man.
Oh, yeah.
Was it of all time or something like that in the world?
That's right. That is the title, isn't it? Isn't it? Good call.
What the?
So, yeah, I'm going to be looking into Simone. Louis. Louise Salome. That's her name. Lulu Salome is Nietzsche's unrequited love. And Anna Freud was a close friend of hers. And Anna Freud was actually taken in by the Gestapo and interrogated. And she had some poison on her that she and her brother were supposed to take too much if they got tortured. They were going to commit suicide if the torture was too much. So they have some really tripped out biographies hiding just off of other people's radar.
Oh, by the way, there's a second part coming out, releasing November 21st, 2025.
Like a year later, huh?
Called Wicked for Good. And it's the upcoming music fantasy film by John M. Chu and Winnie Holzman and Dana Fox, the sequel to Wicked. It is the second installment of a two-part film adaptation of a stage musical of the same name by Stephen Schwartz and Holzman, which is loosely based on the 1995 novel, in turn based on the Oz books and the 1939 film The Wizard of Oz. So Stephen Schwartz and Holtzman, we gotta start peeling apart the layers of these people, because this guy contributed to lyrics to a number of successful films, including Pocahontas, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, The Prince of Egypt, Enchanted, Disenchanted. Bro, this dude's going in. Who is this guy? And he went to Carnegie Mellon University.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting.
They have I think it's a pineapple on their old sigil there. He's a lyricist and composer.
Man.
Huh.
So, the pineapple is the symbol for swingers.
Yeah.
And apparently, I see the Ace of Swords from this deck. The Ace of Swords of the Thoth deck is a giant pineapple. It's also corresponded to like a nuclear explosion or a volcanic explosion on the horizon, but it's also encoding a pineapple, and it has a sword in there. And so it was 1 year from the Tonga explosion when who's Snoop Dogg's girlfriend is Margaret Stewart. When Margaret Stewart did a commercial with a sword and a pineapple. And that was a really dark spell. But whenever you see the pineapple, just think of the Ace of Swords from the Thoth deck.
The Ace of Swords from the Thoth deck.
Yeah. And they said that the Tonga event was not really a volcano. Maybe that was a rod of God. They might have been testing the rod of God technology on that volcano, which is kind of what that card looks like to me.
Which one are you talking about?
The Thoth deck.
No, you said Tonga?
Tonga volcano event was exactly 1 year before Martha Stewart did a commercial with a sword and a pineapple that is basically a whole ritual to that card, to the Ace of Swords of the Thoth deck.
Oh, are you talking about in 2021?
I think so.
This looks gnarly. And they said it was a volcano. So the 2022 Hunga Tonga Hunga Hai Apai eruption and tsunami. Excuse my pronunciation there. Let me pull this up. This is crazy, dude.
Yes, it was exactly 365 days before Margaret Stewart. Am I saying her name right? Margaret Stewart? Martha Stewart.
Stewart.
I keep screwing her
name.
Fuck
her.
Up.
Who cares about her name? So
yeah.
January 15th. 7 dead, 19 injured, and 90.4 million in damages. So they said this is an eruption, a submarine volcano in the Tonga archipelago in the southern Pacific Ocean. The eruption reached a very large and powerful climax nearly 4 weeks later on January 15, 2022. I never heard about this, dude.
Yes, it was in the ripples went all the way around the earth. It was a real big to-do. And it's amazing that they just happen to have a satellite exactly above it to catch a perfect, it's so scripted. It's so scripted.
Bro, what?
Yeah, buddy. And it was on a very sacred date as well. It
looks like a hurricane taking off there. You see that?
The ripples.
Look at that.
Yes.
Bro, what?
Really powerful, that one. And and I also, I believe that they can kind of that they can play these trauma events very much like music into the DNA of the earth, of the collective.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so they laid this one out, and 365 days later, they do a ritual with corresponding aspects and ingredients in Margaret Stewart's kitchen.
I never heard of this, dude. Never. Nothing. And this is only two years ago, bro.
Yeah, it was a big one. It was a real big one. They said the smoke from it went around the world for a couple days, just like Krakatoa way back in the day. Krakatoa erupted exactly on Volcanalia, on the holiday of the volcano, way back in like 1883. Krakatoa popped off on the volcano holiday and went around the world 7 times. That's the river Styx, goes around Hades 7 times around. That's also, there's 7 holes into your head. That's the river Styx into your Hades.
Mm-hmm. All right, so okay, this is really interesting. I never heard about this, but let's continue here with the
Okay, yeah.
with the tarot. Are you done with this one? You want me to continue the next one?
Yeah, let's see what the next one is all about. Okay, yeah, I can weave on this. This is pretty far out.
It's got to do with Luigi, our boy. It's a me, Mario.
It's a me, Mario. Yeah. So Luigi Mangina, he he pops a cap in that CEO, and the CEO is wearing a color of blue that is so it's a signal flare. It's such a bright color blue that I'm just seeing, the symbolic triggering is really overt to my eyes. And so I took the 2 cards that looked the most like it, and sure enough, I was instantly seeing that we were in the same exact time flow as when the John Lennon sacrifice happened on the front doorstep of the Dakota building. And I happen to know that the John Lennon I think the guy's name was Mark David Chapman was the assassin. That whole ceremony, that whole ritual of killing John Lennon, it was encoded into the Ghostbusters and the Shandor building that the Ghostbusters use. And so some of my decodes around the Ghostbusters kind of focus on the death card here, which has ghosts coming off of his weapon. He's got these spirits floating around as he's slicing the ethers of the spiritual realm. And so sure enough, Mark David Chapman had a copy of The Catcher in the Rye on his person that he had asked John Lennon to sign earlier that day. And so John Lennon signs it with a little self-portrait caricature. And so I've been breaking this down on my channel recently. But what's amazing, Juan, can you see the black collar of the book, The Catcher in the Rye? You see how his black collar is just like a black scribble.
Mm-hmm.
But look how it is a perfect overlay onto the death card skeleton.
Yeah, I was gonna say it looks like a Grim Reaper, like the Deathly Hollows from like Harry Potter or whatever they're called.
That's it, buddy.
Yeah,
it's a perfect fit. And also, we've actually seen transparent X-ray footage of Lou Mangione. We've seen his back X-ray pictures of the spinal column where he has a bunch of braces put into his back. Look at the death card. We could see the spinal column of the death character. And so they have infused his biography with these tarot cards in the most deep and profound ways. And so also, Luigi is a booger hanging off your nose. It's a loogie, right? If in the wintertime, you're like sniffing a little booger off the end of your nose. That's actually correspondent to the mu, is the 13th letter in the Greek alphabet. And there's a big booger dripping off the nose of the mu. Well, this is card number 13. And the mu is number 13 in the Greek alphabet. So the mucus off the nose is kind of part of Slimer from the Ghostbusters, was actually embodied in this death card. It's got Slimer all over it. Well, Mangione was wielding a ghost gun. Ghost gun is what the Ghostbusters use. They got these guns that are spraying all over the place out of control. And he had
everywhere.
Totally. And he had a proton pack. He's got a backpack on. And another thing about the backpack, it's in all the trauma rituals, all the way to the Boston bombing, which has relates to that other character we talked about earlier, who was a crisis actor at the Boston bombing. But I just want everybody to consider the word backpack is an instant infantilization spell onto our psyche culturally. It makes you sympathize to when you were young, to when you needed backpacks to carry all your books uphill both ways to and from school. And then, long story short, Juan, I mean, come over to Slick Dissident for more details, but it turns out in my territories map, the Emperor card is the Orange Man bad card that they put him in dressed him in orange and did the perp walk. Well, the Emperor card's face is in the silhouette off the coast of California. And this is crazy because I was doing an episode on why Eureka means. It's the epiphany moment that Archimedes had when he learned how to submerge something underwater to measure its volume. And he went bonkers when he had the breakthrough epiphany and he started running naked in the street, screaming, Eureka, Eureka, Eureka. And that's because he discovered the secret recipe to increasing or measuring the volume from submerging something under the waters. And just this week, the headlines come out that they think this is the year that a big earthquake pops off right off the coast of Eureka, California.
Keep saying that, dude. They've said that every year for the last however many years. It's going to break off. California's going to break off and become its own whole island. Or it's going to be a piece of floating out in the Pacific Ocean. Yeah. Dude.
Totally.
And it's interesting, right? Because I just opened up my Facebook, and speaking of the Orange Man, reports indicate that a judge has denied President-elect Donald Trump's request to dismiss the hush money case. Sentencing is scheduled for January 10th, just days before his inauguration. Trump is expected to attend either in person or virtually with no jail time anticipated.
Yeah,
January
buddy.
10th, 2025.
They are not going to miss any opportunity to hit all the triggers all the way, whatever is most provocative. So then I did a big anagram, and I gotta tell everybody, the longer the anagram, the more room there is for wiggle. You know, it's almost like I prefer a short anagram because there's less options to, you know, project your own whatever opinion onto it. But can you move over a little more where it's got the holding Caulfield to the left and down? Here we go. Yeah. So Lou Mangione, Holden Caulfield. Holden Caulfield is the name of the main character in Catcher in the Rye. And I'm just kind of reading these names loosely to see what little anagrams come out. And I started thinking about, imagine how you're Dun and Brad codified. Dun and Bradstreet is where all of our social security numbers are trademark captured.
Which is kind of sort of like with his whole spiel about you know, the system and whatever it was that he was, the healthcare and being denied, and then the secret code that he had on his Twitter or something people were going crazy about.
Big time. So one more thing, Juan, can you notice I put the constellation for Hercules into the skeleton of the death card there? Mm-hmm. And you see how it's kind of got some swastika to it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm attributing that shape. It's the constellation Hercules, but I'm going to be attributing it to the drones at large because they have the four legs with propellers on the end of each of them. And I'm just seeing a very powerful correspondence between the drones and the ritual where this guy is pretty much acting out the likelihood that he is a mind control assassin.
Yikes. What does Hercules represent as far as like in the occult? I know he was in the womb for 10 months.
Oh yeah,
I believe it was like it was like longer. But would he represent anything as far as like supremacy or maybe like because he was a demigod. He was a Nephilim, essentially, is what he was.
Great point, man.
Right?
This is a great point. You're really nailing it. Yeah. And he is the hero of the fall time of year. He's the exact opposite of Orion. Orion is like the springtime of year. It's kind of optimistic, whereas Hercules is like he's in it for the self struggle.
Mhm.
But you're totally right. I think he is kind of a half breed, so to say, because Zeus has to sneak him in to Hera's bedchamber and allow Hercules to suckle on her breast without her permission. And she wakes up and she's really pissed off because he stole some sort of divine breast milk that turned him into a demigod.
They don't show that on the Disney interpretation of Hercules. They don't show him sneaking him into his wife. Zeus was a freak, dude.
Yeah, man.
Zeus was a freaky, like he was like doing some vile. You know what I'm saying? Like he was crazy, dude.
Right. Yes. Even the word, I always talk about cryptozoology because he was a shapeshifter. He could get in to fit in no matter where you tried to hide it.
Yeah. He was just trying to get the pickle wet wherever he could. He was just like, a swan, you like birds? I heard you like birds. Like just going in and just like doing his thing. Like, bro, this guy was a freak, man. Zeus. He was an asshole is what he was.
He could pick that lock with his foul language.
Yeah. I think swans have cork dicks, don't they? Like there's like a corkscrew.
They totally do.
Let me look it up on off screen here. So swan penis. Yeah, that's a huge that's like a corkscrew, bro. What the All right.
It's a force multiplier.
By the way, there was cultures that made weapons out of walrus baculums or baculas or whatever they're called. So it'd literally be death by walrus dick bone. So I'm actually waiting for an auction to go ahead and see if I can snag one of those walrus dick bone clubs that certain cultures use. I think it's like Inuit or something like that cultures. So
oh my good God,
I'm gonna be making my own homunculus with that walrus dick bone.
So I am of the impression that the totem of the walrus is intrinsically hailing Friedrich Nietzsche himself.
I was gonna say another freak, but that was Freud who was a freak. But Nietzsche too. Nietzsche was into some stuff.
But I think, when the Beatles talk about all hail the walrus, I think they're actually talking about Nietzsche because of his giant mustachio.
You ever listen to Beatles pre-drugs and then after the drugs? They're way better after the drugs because it's a whole different sound, bro.
Yeah.
It's a whole different sound. It's crazy, man, what they were looking into. And
yes.
As my guitar gently weeps.
The Latin word for a beetle is like escarabajo, and it means their face to the ground. And this is because both the scribes are kind of stuck in their books, and they even have nearsightedness because they're kind of shut in kind of personalities, but they're worshipful and they're always pious and they're always making themselves small. And so there's something to be said about how escarabajo of book worship is actually self-diminishing. You become kind of closed in on yourself when you become a bibliophile. So yeah, I just love pointing that out about the Beatles. And then of course, Carl Jung, one of his most synchronous moments was when he was talking to one of his clients about a beetle. And then a beetle came flying on the windowsill at the exact moment that she needed to become a believer.
A synchronicity, yeah. She wanted a sign and it was a beetle. But
right.
It's interesting you say that because, I mean, who became the ultimate bibliophile of anything if not Carl Jung when he would literally enter within his books and his journals? I mean, and the scarab beetle is interesting because it makes life out of like that's what
right.
it's known for, right? Yeah. And that's maybe perhaps why they were worshipped by the Egyptians, like the scarab beetle.
Right.
It's really
and
gnarly.
I always love pointing out how the scarab is also an anagram for the rebus And the rebus is a word puzzle, and that's something that I do a great amount of. Kind of, linguistic Kabbalah is something that I'm really into. And so the rebus, it's said by Lacan, a philosopher, I think a French philosopher. He says, language is a rebus. That's one of my favorite quotes, because I do believe that what the Knights Templar discovered when they went to the Middle East to turn the tables on the Vatican was they discovered algebra. But they discovered that language is like algebra, and it has puzzle pieces that are interchangeable. And so I think they found not just algebra, I think they found the word puzzles of the rebus of the English language.
By rebus, you mean rebus, like the alchemical rebus?
It's same. Yep. One and the same.
The duo?
It is. Yep. It's the ability to kind of mix and match.
Dissolve at coagulate. Yeah.
Yes. And it is. It's also a very hermetic concept intellectually.
Whoa, dude. So our boy Loogie here, or Mangina, whatever you called him earlier. So what do you think is to come here, Slick, with this tarot technology? Is our boy Luigi? He's kind of like a rebus. He's a pretty guy, right? He's kind of handsome. He was kind of flirting with the girl, and allegedly that's what got him kind of Zeus-like, right? He was flirting with the girl, and that was his downfall, wasn't it? Like that's what they were talking about. But you think they're gonna sacrifice him? You think they're gonna? What do you think is gonna happen with this here? These upcoming weeks. Now I'm getting sourdough starter kit groups on my Facebook now.
Nice.
They're literally. I didn't look it up. I didn't look it up on my phone. I looked it up on my computer, and they're already telling me.
They're already angling for you. They're gonna. That's the art of fishing the shoal of the conch that shows you noise,
bro. I was talking about it with you. And now it's on my Facebook recommendation for groups.
It's so fascinating,
dude.
So I want to say that I think that this this drone programming is actually going to valorize the idea of, I was triggered. I was triggered to do this. It's not my fault. I was triggered. I love pointing out that the word triggered only became a verb exactly in stride with the film Manchurian Candidate. Before the film Manchurian Candidate, triggered was only a noun. And it's only been a verb for this long. And think about how powerful that verb is now. The fact that we use it as a verb, it's really potent. And so I do think that this drone programming of this character, Mangina, is going to continuously erode people's sense of, hey, I was triggered. I was triggered to do this. It's not my fault. It's, and also I think that they're flipping our sympathetic resonance. Our elders were going to sympathize with John Lennon, who was the victim of the ritual.
What was the name of the movie you said? Manchurian Candidate?
Manchurian Candidate. Yeah. Yep. It was a book first, and they actually delayed the film release for many years because they didn't want people to realize how programmable we are. And they didn't want us to have trigger become a verb too soon. They needed to seed our consciousness before they let us use the word triggered as a verb.
So yeah, by 1986, it became to cause intense and usually negative emotional reaction in a person or animal. And the book came out was published April 27, 1959.
Yeah, man. But what's amazing is the technology of triggering people's emotional response is hundreds of years older than we have the word to identify it. And so the ramifications of the fact that they've been triggering people with the MK Ultra ever since the Knights of Malta in the caverns underneath, that they've been doing that for hundreds of years. We're just now reaping the benefit, the privilege of having the perfect word to describe triggering your consciousness, because we are the original program. Our epigenetic memory is the original program. And so they put these rituals right in stride with sacred trauma rituals from our ancestors, and all that packaging, all the baggage, all the memory from childhood, and even your ancestors who came before you. They got these guys wearing backpacks every single time. So all the emotional unpacking becomes emotional anchors that we pass like a trauma torch. And there's a lunar standstill coming in March. Heads up on that. I'll just leave it at that. That's my big weave right now. I'm looking at the lunar standstill in March and the likelihood of the draft coming over the next few years.
We're the fleas in the jar that got the cap put on them, and we're being trained, and we're not ever going to be able to jump any higher than that top of that cap because our have been tainted by the indoctrination of the cap, right? They put the cap on there, and any offspring of those fleas from there on out can't jump any higher than from the bottom of that jar to the top right before they hit, which is wild, point. Dude. So
it makes me think of turpentine in the looshing ritual that they do, or no, excuse me, absinthe, the looshing ritual of absinthe. Yeah, I think that's deeply encoded. Well, let's unpack that with the Wizard of Oz project when we come back around.
And one of the things that, before we go here, one of the things that makes you question this whole narrative of him, being this rogue gunman and, having a cause. When he's apprehended and all this stuff, like, he's not yelling, the system, more power to the man or whatever, sticking it to them. It's like, he hasn't really said anything, right? He's just kind of been quiet. Like, you would think that somebody trying to make a point, trying to push a movement would say something in court or like, when they capture him, nothing. Right. Yep. Silent treatment. That's the golem. The golem doesn't talk. It can't talk. It doesn't know how to communicate. So, I don't know, dude.
And even, the Greeks, the verbs controlled the sentence. And so there is a certain spirit of letting your actions speak for you. There is an aspect of that. And that is kind of one of the keys to Stoicism is you don't talk about it, you be about it.
Yeah, exactly. Less talk, more do, I guess. Yeah. All right. Well, listen, dude, always mind-blowing. We're starting off the new year as schizo as we could with the old slick dissident here. Very interesting connections. Talk about Descartes, talk about the sourdough homunculus, tarot technologies, and whatever else. If you enjoyed this, make sure to leave a comment, leave a review, leave whatever, thumbs up. Who cares? Go follow the show, www.tjljp.com. And Slick, where can people find you, bro? You put out videos. Let people know, and links will be down in the description. But tell people one more time where they can go support you.
Yeah, brother. Big love and respect, man. Thanks for having me on. Happy 2025, the magical year of Venus. Slick Dissident on YouTube. I got the slickdissident.com where I got some of my merch, some of my ciphers, my Slick Dissident authentic logismoi. And then I get down with Chance Garton on the Interverse every now and again.
Much love and respect to you, bro. Appreciate you coming on. First public episode of the year.
Yeah, man.
With the old Slick Dissident. We'll be seeing more of him later on. And yeah, we'll do a dive into the Wizard of Oz. We'll have to call old Paranoid American on that one because he knows a lot more about that than I do. So we'll chop it up with him. And as always, everyone, make sure to speaking of the Manchurian Candidate, I have the Room 237 keychain here.
Hot fire. Nice.
Make sure to check out the Patreon if you want to check out the episode on the Pseudomonarchia Daemonum that I just recorded last night with homie Romy, and all the other backlog of hundreds of episodes that are on there. And as always, everyone will catch you on the next one, and I'll see you very soon. And that's it. Bye.
Peace, y'all.